Welcome to Sacred Success Salon, where we are talking about how to lead and thrive as an awakened leader in uncertain times. I am your host, Anna Kowalska, your purpose and prosperity catalyst. And today, you guys are in for a treat. I know I am. I would like to introduce you and help me welcome Sorinne Ardeleanu. Welcome, Sorinne.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today, Anna. It is an honor to connect with you and your audience. I'm looking forward to see where this conversation takes us.
Yes, so am I. So, you guys, Sorinne is a presidential candidate for 2020. I'm like, what year are we in? For 2020. And when I was introduced to Sorinne, my first instinct was, wow, an awakened presidential candidate, chief, healer in chief. Yes, I love
Yes.
that. And my first instinct said, do I want to introduce politics into Salon, where we're talking about, business and awakening and spirituality? And that morning, when before you and I spoke, Sorinne, another guest said, it really is time that all of us who are awakened, who speak about spirituality and oneness and unity, we have to start embracing politics exists. And we had a little bit of that happen, right? And it's really time for us to start talking about it. And I said, okay, it's my sign. So you and I, Sorinne, spoke that day, and I was literally speechless because the sense that I had was, it's a dream of mine, and I know many of our listeners and viewers, to have somebody like you in our government. And now we get to have a chat with you and get to know you. So what inspired you and prompted you to run for presidency?
Well, first of all, this is not what I chose to do with my life. I want to be very clear. I consider myself a very spiritual person. It's not something I usually talk about because I believe our actions speak for themselves. But I think with this audience, it's very important to understand I'm not a politician. That's not where I've come from. I've come from a very challenging upbringing where both my parents were immigrants from communist countries. They risked their lives to come to America for, in pursuit of freedom, and the great American dream. And unfortunately, my parents divorced at an early age. And I was with my mother, and she didn't have many resources, and she really wanted the best for me, but she didn't know how to raise me in a gentle and effective manner. So she used force, which led to me running away from home when I was 14 because I couldn't fight back. It's my mother, even though, part of me knew this wasn't right, that I was being treated this way, but part of me also knew that I can't stoop to that same level. And so I got out. And then, obviously this has made a huge impact on my life, not just in the behaviors that I learned from childhood that I repeated as an adult, but also in my curiosity and understanding what drove behavior. And so in my late 20s, I actually ended up being disabled for a few months. I basically realized I had been operating on this pattern that I learned from childhood where love and abuse go together. Even though it's not something that I wanted, at a subconscious level, this is all I knew. So I pushed away healthy relationships. And I'm not just talking about romance. I'm talking about business and personal, okay? I had a very severe PTSD. I was selling exotic cars. I worked for companies like Bentley, Lamborghini, Tesla, Spiker. These are the top, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I ended up getting sick from there because I realized that I was basically a means to lots of people's ends, and I wasn't respected for doing things with integrity. I was being pressured to do things out of integrity, but I was successful because I was authentic and passionate. So this about 10 years ago was kind of the shift in my life. But prior to that, because of everything I'd experienced, I had actually gotten into studying psychology, understanding that our values are what influence our behaviors. And when I had these realizations, which was about 20 years ago, that's when I realized, if I truly want to make a positive impact in the world, if I truly want to influence values with integrity, I have to run for president and actually win because the president of this country has the opportunity to influence our education curriculums, has the opportunity to influence our media, has the opportunity to influence our healthcare, has the opportunity to influence who we put on pedestals and consider our authority figures.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized, that that's probably where I'm going. But I didn't take it too seriously back then because I was, around 20 years old,
Yes.
But I knew that, that this was really the greatest way to have a positive impact to help people not go through what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
And also around the same time, I realized a lot of people were complaining about what's going on in the world, but not actually offering solutions. And there was a lack of accountability. So this was kind of the first, fire under me, but it wasn't, really propelling me yet because I was just getting into making money because I grew up really poor on welfare and food stamps and Section 8, and I finally was making good money. I was making six figures. I had six figures in the bank. I co-owned a nightclub, an art gallery. I was living the life. So I wasn't quite ready to take on this responsibility. It was just a thought in the back of my head,
Mm-hmm.
But then when I went on disability, everything changed, because that's when I woke up and realized that I had this pattern that I was repeating from childhood, which is totally normal. Most of us do until
Yes.
we realize.
Yes.
And I realized that I was creating the pain and suffering in my life because I continued to allow this pattern in all my relationships. And so I went through this phase of essentially shutting the world out and experiencing it on my terms, learning to trust, learning to have faith, really diving into understanding natural laws because I had realized that, nothing in life happens by chance. We can trace a cause back to every effect outside of the first cause. And so I really wanted to understand, and I didn't want to, have a hit or miss system in life. I was tired of suffering. And so I basically have spent the past 10 years studying life, correlating universal truths. And during this journey of essentially not answering to anybody else, living life on my terms, because I stopped working for other people about 11 years ago now almost. I started having, I called them visions, but I didn't find out till later that I actually was having feelings that I called visions. And we can talk about that if you want, but I started
Yeah.
having what I call visions where
Mm-hmm.
people were chanting Serene 2020. And it scared me, okay, because I'm not perfect. I have a very rich past, let's call it that. I've been through a lot. I've lived a lot of life. I've been in a lot of pain. I've been desperate. I've been depressed. I've been disabled. I've been through a lot. And so I haven't always made decisions that I would repeat. Okay. And so and I had imposter syndrome because I was told that I was ugly and stupid every day of my life till I was 14, so there were all these things that I was up against. And it was like, not me. Why me? Why am I having this? I only told one person at the time that this happened because I was just scared and he was my mentor. And so I just told him because I saw him that day. And I tried to ignore this, but as I kept moving forward on my journey of understanding that we are all one, understanding that love is the greatest form of energy in the world, other people started gravitating towards me and telling me that they had similar visions without me ever saying anything to them. And eventually, a colleague of mine decided he was going to run for president. and
Mm-hmm.
he asked me if I would be his vice president. And I had never told him about any of this stuff. And I said yes, because I felt like this was a door that was opening. There were a few other doors that opened as I began surrendering, but this was really the pivoting point for me. And a week after I agreed to it, I couldn't sit with myself. I said, look, I'm not being honest with him. I'm not being honest with myself. I love him. I'm going to tell him that, I will support him, but this is something that I have to do for myself.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what happens at the polls, I understand why I have felt called. And there are a couple reasons. I believe one, it is for my own personal journey to realize that I am enough, that I can make a difference, that none of that stuff in the past matters because it's not who I am today. And to finally have faith that, I can do this on my own versus being a means to everybody else's end, which had been my pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And the other reason I felt like I had to do this was because I realized, there are many people out there that I think have figured out life, that are great spiritual teachers and masters, but I didn't see any of them standing up and getting involved in politics. And I just thought, why aren't they running? Why, I feel like they can do a better job. But then I realized, wait a minute, maybe they're not feeling called. because we all do have a different path in life.
Yeah.
I believe we have the same purpose, which is to master love, but not everyone's ready to hear that. But I believe that our paths are different on how we attain that. And so that really gave me peace when I started looking around and seeing what everyone's doing. And also, I've done similar series like this in the past. And
Yeah.
I had lunch with one of my experts and about a year and a half ago, and she said something to me that really activated me as well. And she said, Sorinne, you're like a lighthouse. There are people around the world. You have a network of lighthouses that are waiting for you to activate, to send the signal. And when she said that, I realized she's right. There are people out there that are waiting for somebody that has overcome the things that I have because they've been through similar things or they're going through them now, waiting to essentially give them permission to have courage, to be open, to stand up for what they believe is right, and so that's really what my campaign is about. Yes, I do want to win at the polls, but I know there are many different ways to win because it's not about what title I have. It's not about politics. It is about our human family and about doing what's right for everyone, and not just ourselves, not just our communities, not just our parties, whatever. It is about working together. It is about evolving consciousness. And so for me, I am committed to serving life any way I can for the rest of my life. I made this commitment years ago before I registered to run for office.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I see this as just another channel. It is quite possible I could win, even though I'm completely the outlier in this, because as we're looking at how 2020 is unfolding. So it's just fascinating. And I share this because I believe when we surrender to our path, that it becomes very clear how we're going to get from where we are to where we're going, and that our path isn't going to look like anybody else's. And that was a really difficult part of my journey. Is, I had even hired mentors and coaches in the past because I just wanted to do what they told me to do.
Mm-hmm.
But my struggle was I was trying to create something that hadn't been created before. And so there was nobody for me to follow. I had to find my own path, and it became very apparent without me trying. Again, it's a big part of the journey, surrendering, letting go of my ego, my fears, my desires, and just trusting myself, that intuition, and going with it. Because at the end of the day, I realized, what's the worst that can happen? In the worst case, I inspire people and I make a difference. What's the best? It's the same thing. So no matter what, I win. And so that, and I share this because a lot of us, I feel, are going through these battles, especially right now. We are living in uncertain times, but this is also a great time to plant seeds for the future we actually want to experience. And so it's a great time to get active and to be involved in whatever shape feels most natural. This isn't the path for everybody. I respect that.
Yeah. It's so amazing because every time you speak, I get moved because I sense that truth, regardless of any political views. I sense the truth of you are being led on a path, and it is a path that I think a lot of us, to what you said, it's not an easy path. And a lot of, well, first of all, I wasn't born in this country, but I don't desire to be a president. I never did. So to have that calling and to answer it and to face all your fears, that really is, to me, that's it takes tremendous courage. But more than anything, I want to talk to you about the surrender part, because you mentioned it several times. So go back to the calling, because I think it will activate some people that maybe resonate with it in their own way. So go back to that calling, because you said you want to talk about it if we're open to it. And then I would love to hear how you surrender every day to this process.
Yeah. So part of the surrendering for me was that I realized I didn't have a choice but to surrender. I'm very sensitive to energy. I realized along the way, I think we all are, but I feel like many of us create, barriers to not feel. And I started noticing that when I lived my life a certain way, I would experience, physical, psychological, and spiritual pain. And, especially as I started understanding natural laws, because here's the thing, you can't unlearn things. Once you learn something and you realize that it's true, then if you go against it, it actually harms you. And so, my journey over these past 10 plus years now has not been a straight line. It's been up and down, I went through a period of time when I was in and out of emergency rooms a couple times a year because I was resisting.
Yeah.
And so I mention this because I actually have a bit of a healthcare background as well. And I've realized that the majority of people who are suffering with diseases that especially Western medicine says are incurable are suffering from functional disease, which is, typically it's self-created. Unfortunately, it's from the mind, it's from resistance. It's because we're not, I believe, this is my
Yeah.
theory, and,
Yes.
and there are doctors that do agree with this. There is science that does support this. I'm not a doctor, but I'm speaking with experience, and so I mention this because a lot of times people have these weird pains in their life and ailments, and they don't know where they're coming from. And I believe it's from holding back who you are, because we all have this potential to be something great, like a acorn is always going to be an oak tree, right? It's not going to be something else, right? You and I, we have this potential within us because we also started as seeds to be something. It's written within us. And if we fight it, it's not going to be easy. But it's also something I realize is that this whole journey is about work. And many people, when they hear me say work, they think about something completely different, like working for money. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is the real work. This is more important. The money will come if you work on yourself, letting go of those layers. So you're asking about, the daily process for me. I have realized, and I knew this way long ago, I had these on my business cards when I was in my early 20s, that, we become who we surround ourselves with. And so environment is very, very important. And the wonderful thing for me that anybody can do this, but it's been easier for me because I literally separated myself from the world, is that I started filtering all my experiences as much as possible, where I only listen to and watch things and read things and engage with people that are positive and logical, that build me up, that empower me. I became a lot more intentional, and I don't let myself get moved by people who don't understand life. I don't get upset, or I don't get moved at all at this point, intentionally, because I realize that when we are emotional, we can't reason correctly. And that's really what makes us more advanced over other animals, is our ability to reason fully and correctly. And so for me, it's like, I really want to develop this ability so that I can always make the best decisions. And so I really create an environment that's supportive of that. I take classes every few weeks. I'm listening to talks every day. I'm watching things. I'm reading things. I try to create my own environment as much as possible to remind myself constantly how life really works, because unfortunately there's a lot of mixed messages out there. There are a lot of people who don't understand, and so they're operating from a place of just getting the most for themselves regardless of the consequences. So people will sell whatever they want, unfortunately, just to make money. And back to the oneness, you can't do that when you understand that we're all connected, and if you harm somebody else, that you're harming yourself. So for me, it's really, I've come a long way, where it's become automatic. But when I first started on this journey, I was going to book clubs every week, and just really, it's creating an environment that is going to be supportive for you. There's an example that I like to give, especially like I used to work for Tesla, and I don't actually like to promote the company, but I like to give the example of Elon. I don't agree with the way that he treats people, but there's something that he does that we can all learn from, no matter what it is we're trying to achieve. And that is, when he has a vision, right, he stays focused on it. He knows that that's all that matters. He doesn't care if people don't believe in him, whatever. He just surrounds himself with people who say yes, who find a way to make it happen, right? So he knows how to create this fertile environment and to get exactly what he wants, right? All great inventors are the same way, because in order to bring something new into the world, you have to believe in it no matter what. And you have to surround yourself with people who believe in it, because it's like, you're fighting a battle against people who are stuck to the old ways, and you're trying to move them forward. And so I share this because it's so important who you're spending your time with, what you're listening to, because everything is energy, and you are going to be influenced by them, especially if you haven't learned how to reason fully and correctly. And I say this with respect because I know sometimes people get offended, like, what do you mean I don't know how to reason? I know how to reason, right? But the thing is, most of us aren't actually taught how to reason correctly. So we are operating from concepts in our subconscious mind that oftentimes are actually fantasies or theories. So we have to go in and reclassify them and realize, like, okay, this is a fact, theory, and fantasy. And
Mhm.
I'm only going to operate from the facts. I understand these are theories that have been shared with me, and I can't operate from this anymore because it's a fantasy. But most of us don't take the time to do that. We want to believe the things that have been passed down to us or given to us by, those authority figures that I mentioned earlier. They're not what gives a lot of people authority to speak like experts. Many of them, it's not because they are actually experts, it's because they have influence, they have money or power. And so we really need to learn how to discern correctly the information we're getting.
Mhm.
And this is a huge part of why I'm running. I want to help empower people to realize that they're capable of doing anything that they feel called to do, and with integrity.
Mhm. That's so amazing. It so I'm going to have to ask you, and we talked about it on the phone, but I know it's going to be a question, and people ask you all the time. What qualifies you to run for president?
Well, I'm a human being. I think that should count for something. I'm
Mhm.
not a politician.
Mhm.
And the really wonderful thing about running for president is that there are actually only three qualifications: that you be at least 35 years or older, that you be
Mhm.
born in the United States, and that you reside here for the past 14 years. And I've thought about that. Why is the bar so low?
Mhm.
And I thought, because it's important that it is not a politician, that it is somebody that is of the people and for the people and representative of them, somebody who is in touch with reality. And I feel like because of everything that I've overcome and all the things I've been through, that I can relate to pretty much anyone in the world. And I actually have tested this out. For the first 3 years, when I stopped working for other people, I went around the world. I visited 18 different countries. I just did this for about 3 years. I was barely home in San Francisco, and it was my way of restoring faith. It was my way of healing, because with PTSD, I needed to get away from the triggers. I needed some peace to think clearly, right? I changed my environment.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, I have to come back. I have to share. But the reason I mention this is, I have a colleague that was recently elected as district attorney of San Francisco. And there are a lot more requirements for him to become the district attorney than there is for a president.
Oh.
And so I realized, again, I don't think that this is by accident, that these are the requirements. And I believe that having somebody that is not involved in politics will actually be more advantageous, because I can't be bought. Nobody can buy me, and nobody can blackmail me, because I own everything that I've been through. I'm not ashamed of anything I've done. I don't regret anything I've done. The only thing I felt like I might regret is not running. And I had never felt that way. And so I believe that people are really ready for somebody who brings authenticity, who brings courage, who brings insight, and who wants to connect people, and who is already doing this in a smaller scale. So I really believe that this is the perfect year for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. And hold on, because there are so many things that are coming in that I want to ask you, and I definitely did not. Like we right before we got on, Sorinne and I. So this is for you, audience, our viewers. I didn't want to make it political, and Sorinne said, "I don't want to make it political. I want to talk about things that matter, and it's not politics; it's people." So
Well, yeah, the thing is, we all, what you asked, it's like, well, what makes you think you're qualified for this position? Right?
yeah,
You don't need a piece of paper to prove your worth or add value or make a difference
yeah,
in the world. And
hmm
that's what a lot of people don't realize is, they have this pressure. Now, I was a chiropractic student. I dropped out of chiropractic college. I was going to be a doctor.
yeah,
I dropped out because I realized I was there for the wrong reasons.
mm-hmm.
I was there because somehow, for a moment, I thought I needed that piece of paper. But then I realized, wait, again, I am enough. I have enough right now that I can keep developing, that comes naturally to me,
yeah,
that will benefit others. And so this is universal, what we're talking about. And that's why I share that. It's like, it doesn't matter what position you see yourself in life. If you see yourself, and it's not because you want it for whatever reason, but you actually feel like that's what you're supposed to be doing, try it. You have nothing to lose.
yeah.
And there's, if you believe that you have what it takes, there's a reason that you're feeling called to do this, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And when I was tuning into what do you represent for us in the salon, it was definitely the courage to say, it was put on my heart. I was called, and I'm answering the calling, and I will do whatever it takes, which is what I hear from you. It's like, I will surrender. I mean, surrender is, it, to me, it's a challenging thing, right? I'll surrender. There'll be people who will not like what you have to say. I mean, to run for president at all. And I mean, Marianne Williamson went ahead of you, and she got, there were people who did not like what she had to say. So you definitely are putting yourself in a position where there will be judgment and there will be pushback. Yet I sense the centeredness and the groundedness in you. And I sense the clarity of, I'm just doing it. And all of those things don't even matter.
Well, it's kind of fun for me, right? And this is how you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, I've already experienced a little bit of what you described. Fortunately, it's just been a little, but
Yeah.
I'm prepared for a lot more. I treat it almost like a game, in the
Mm.
sense that I look at, especially when people are engaging with me and not being respectful,
Yeah.
I try to meet them where they're at and help them understand that I come from a place of love,
Mhm.
and that I'm here to serve, to see if, because I feel, no, not I feel, I believe that the reason that others harm others, especially with their words, is because they're in pain themselves,
Yeah.
right? That's a cry for help to me. And so I don't take it personally. I just see, okay, here's somebody who's in pain, who
Mhm.
doesn't understand me. That's okay. I'm not going to try to win them over, but let me try to understand where they're coming from.
Mhm.
It's because this helps me grow as well, right? This is, talking about not being moved. That's been a big part of this journey for me, is I've had to make some very difficult decisions where I've had to say no to things that have been very important for me until I've entered this election,
Yeah.
right? To do what I believe is for the greater good of all, like realizing, like, look, Serene, this is important. You have to give 100%. These other things are temporary. And yes, they're not pleasant. They're uncomfortable. They're stressful, but you can't let them get to you right now. You have to remember on what you're focused on, and realize that everything in life is temporary.
Mhm.
Everything ebbs and flows. And no matter how difficult whatever it is that you're going through, it's going to pass. And in the end, you're going to feel better for doing what is for the greater good of all, instead of just yourself.
Mhm.
Because we
I-
all benefit when we do what benefits everybody. You're not excluded from that, greater good for all.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely represent a vision of what our government could look like when we all operate from that, right? Especially at that level, especially at the government level. So, Serene, what is one thing that's coming through you right now? Because our time is coming to the end, and I will have a final question for you. But I just wanted to see, what is it that you would like people to know about you, in addition to what you've shared so far? Anything that you'd like to share right now with our audience?
The first thing that came to mind was just, I love you.
Mm.
I love all human beings. That is why I'm running, because I truly love all expressions of life. I believe we're all divine. And I believe that we all deserve to have the freedom to live our most authentic lives. And that
Mhm.
fulfillment comes from that. Freedom isn't just something that government gives you. Freedom is something you give yourself in your mind. Right? And that's a conversation I'm starting to bring into politics as well. Is like, Libertarian Party is all about freedom. Yes. But even if we took away all the regulations and all the taxes in the world, we will still have many people who are imprisoned in their own minds.
Mhm.
And so this third dimensional stuff, it's just the beginning. It's a way to access people, to truly help them to be free. And so I couldn't do what I'm doing if I didn't love people. And so
Mhm.
I just want people to keep that in mind, that I'm coming from a place of love, and that, as long as I believe that, as long as I'm candid about how human I am and how imperfect I am and how willing I am to evolve and be open, that's most important. And I share this because I feel that it makes everybody's life better when we operate from this place of love. And the beginning of my platform is love. It's about love, logic, and liberty for
Love
all,
it.
because love is the answer. And it's not this new agey love. Love is doing the right thing. Love is leading by example. Love is setting aside your personal likes and dislikes. Love is not, a lot of people confuse love with bondage. You
Mhm.
don't own somebody when you love them, that they don't do whatever you want them to. We respect people when we love them. We let people pursue what is calling
Mhm.
them. And so really, talking about love is really important for people to understand, because if we learn how to love ourselves, we're better able to love others. And that I wouldn't be here today if I didn't start loving myself, and I wouldn't be able to love others if I didn't start loving myself, because I didn't know what that felt like till I start giving it to me and experiencing it and reaping the rewards.
Mm-hmm. So beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. I know you have a gift for our audience.
Yes. So I'm very creative, and one of the things that I do is I write poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And a few years ago, I wrote a gratitude poem that I printed out on cards and sent to friends. And then recently I updated it because I realized that I have evolved, as is to be expected. And so the words didn't resonate with me, and I updated it. And for your audience, I have created this version 2.0.
Yeah.
And the reason I share this is, everything is energy. We have tons of science that is showing this now. And the higher your vibration, the better your experience of life. And so this is a poem that I wrote about all the things that I'm grateful for. And it's written in a way that everybody can relate to it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that I feel that if you read it as a way to pick yourself up in the morning or in the evening, that you are going to experience a lot more prosperity and joy and fulfillment in your life. And so this is my gift for your tribe, just a piece of me, a piece of my journey, and a piece of what works for me.
Beautiful. I love it. So you guys can receive the gift of the gratitude poem from Sorinne. The button right below this video. Click the button, enter your name and email address, and claim your gift. Receive your gift. Don't even claim it. Receive it. Receive your gift. And it's Sorinne 2020. Yes, Sorinne
Yes,
2020.
that's correct. Well,
yeah.
no, so that's for my campaign. So
Yes,
I didn't
I
want to.
know.
Yes, I didn't want to pressure people. So yes, for this gift, it is actually at successmovement.org.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just sign up and you get it right away. And if you were interested in the political stuff, it's Sorinne 2020. And, I am, like I mentioned, I am in this for the rest of my lifetime. I'm here to serve life, no matter my title. So if, when you sign up for my poem, you'll get an email from me, some information. If you want to be involved, if you have ideas, I'm open. I really believe in collaborating, and I believe it's time for us to help the rest of our human family to evolve, to experience more peace. This isn't something I can do on my own. This is something that all of us that feel called in some shape or form should stand up for, especially right now. It's a beautiful time to be alive because of all this instability and uncertainty.
Yeah.
We can steer the ship whatever direction we want, but we have to be actively involved right now.
Yeah. I love that. And I did mention your political website on purpose because I'm going to say this. I am one of those people who puts her head in the sand about politics because I don't believe I can make a difference. I vote because I'm an American. I came from a communist country, so I have that background. Yet I know that for us to experience for us to steer the ship in the direction where I personally would like to see humanity go, politics has to be part of this conversation. Absolutely must. And when I hear you speak, when I interact with you, something inside me, it's like a new bubble of hope. Wow, this actually could happen, awakens. So without any political agenda, I am so appreciative and grateful of your courage to answer your calling, stand in fire, because it's going to take something, and be a beautiful example of following whatever you were put on earth to do. So it's Sorinne2020.org, and it's my choice to share it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so beautiful. So you guys, if nothing else, go and claim the gift of a beautiful gratitude poem. Gratitude is such a high vibration that we can never get enough of it. So it's amazing. Thank you, Sorinne.
Thank you, Anna.
So beautiful. I get to ask you one last question. You ready for this? Every guest expert gets to answer, and I think you like it. What is your vision for the world right now that you would like to leave us with?
My vision is a world of people who realizes that we don't have to fight one another, that we can get a lot further when we work together, when we learn to get along, when we learn about each other and how similar we are. You know, my vision is a world where people are free to be their most authentic selves, to be free of judgment, and to be supported for being their most authentic selves. I mean, truly just a world that is more peaceful, more prosperous, because at the end of the day, you know, we all share the same home. And
Mm.
so for me, it's really important to realize we're all on the same team. No matter where we come from, we have to take care of each other. We have to take care of our home. And
Mm.
so that's really what I'm working towards, is to unite people and to awaken people to this reality so that we can move forward. We're ready.
Mhm. Love it. So beautiful. Thank you, Sorinne. Thank you for being
Thank you.
part of the salon and saying yes to this collaboration. All of you guys, one more time, claim, receive the gift of gratitude poem, and we'll see you at the next conversation. Bye for now.